I'm like, it's just us now.
Exciting.
The suspense is killing me. We don't. That's why I'm like, ooh. I don't have a dad joke, but I do have one that's my toddler's favorite. So does a toddler joke count? It's much cuter when he says it because he's 3, but he says, "I can. Okay, I can." It goes like this. Mama, what does the wall say to the wall?
What?
Meet you at the corner.
Hello. Yeah, I'm Tim. I'm managing director of Right Finder Headhunting, which means I started the company. I spend most of my time hiring lovely people like yourselves for game studios globally.
Hi, Willem. Yes, that is brand new. It happened right before Christmas. So I'm I'm a recruiter. I've been a recruiter and in the HR space for about a decade or so across a multitude of industries. And my whole platform is really built around female empowerment and empowering working moms. Like I opened with, I have two babies. They are 3 and 18 months. So for me, being a mom is kind of a cornerstone of my persona. And that's kind of what I bring to the table. So I'm the founder of Moms in Gaming, and I'm a industry recruiter. I've been at studios. I've worked with like Apple and Naughty Dog, and now at PTW, where I started off as a recruiter and then became the technical recruiting lead for North America. So all of our North America co-development candidates kind of go through me now. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I work with Willem a lot. So I have been around a while with IGA. Oh, I was like, am I the only one? Willem, I think we all lost you.
We've lost your
Because I
voice.
have the spinning, yeah, because I have the spinning wheel of death on the presentation, I just assumed it was. That's okay. It can just be me and you, Tim. Hey, you're back. It's like a disappearing act. I'm here for it. I didn't know that there would be actual magic in this show.
It's illusions.
It's a Christmas miracle. I think Willem lied to you because I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about resumes, not portfolio best practices. You gave me a little bit of a heart attack when you were like, portfolio best practices. I can talk a little about portfolios, but I think Willem kind of hit on the head, right? So your portfolio should be the first representation of who you are and putting your best assets first. So I hire a lot of character artists and environment artists, so I can kind of speak to that most when it comes to portfolio. So effectively, we want to make sure that what you're presenting is something that is clear and easy to read, and we'll do a lot more of a portfolio deep dive later, but your portfolios need to be clear and easy to read. They really are, like Willem said, like the first calling card to a recruiter, right? That's what I'm going to be able to justify and pass over to my hiring managers. Make sure that you're using like appropriate fonts, again, appropriate platforms. So Willem mentioned the majority of them that you would be utilizing. For most of my character art candidates, or environments, we see them on ArtStation. There's been a lot of discussion on whether or not you should move away from ArtStation, right? Given kind of state of the industry, and the answer right now is no. That's what my hiring managers are used to seeing. That's what they're accustomed to. That's what they're familiar with, and you don't ever want to make more work, right, or put invisible labor on your hiring team. So right now, most common place to live there is ArtStation. We do see Wix. If you're somebody who's on the visual side, right, YouTube is fine. Vimeo is better most of the time. So if you're someone with an animation reel or something like that, cinematics reel, right? So that's kind of where you would put those for those. After your portfolio has caught our attention, the next thing we're going to look at is your resume. Your resumes, honestly, I've said this in every talk I've ever done, boring is better. And I've recently just, yesterday was talking with my students. I also teach because I don't have enough on my plate. I teach at LCAD and Laguna College of Art and Design in their game design and bachelor like game art programs. There is a place for a beautiful resume. If you're someone who really loves the time and effort you've put into your beautiful resume, great. Put it on your LinkedIn profile and pin it as a featured post, because a lot of recruiters, we can actually export or download your portfolio and show that to our hiring managers if you don't have one readily available, or if we've sourced you for something, like if we found you on LinkedIn and you didn't give us your resume, we could export to our hiring team. Instead, That's the only place that I would suggest you put that beautiful portfolio or that beautiful resume. Other than that, boring is better. Most of you will be applying cold to jobs. You'll be going to either you'll be provided a link to apply, or you found the job on LinkedIn and you're going to apply, or you found the job on the company website and you're going to apply. At that point, use a boring ATS friendly resume. And by boring, I don't mean it has to be devoid of color, but it does need to be a typical left to right, up to down format. We see a lot of what we call Cornell, which is 2-column formats. And that, when it comes into our systems, is translated multiple times and ends up cattywampus, and it ends up like adjusted wrong and your words are falling off the page. It's not nearly as pretty, right, by the time it's been translated multiple times in binary and it comes into the recruiter side. So boring is better. Keep it simple. And then make sure the key factors are there. Number one, your name at the top, right? Like your name, your contact information with clickable links. And that should include your portfolio, right? Your LinkedIn profile, your actual portfolio to your body of work, and a working email address. Then this is like hit or miss, depends on the recruiter, but then I encourage a candidate profile summary, a 2 to 3 sentence blurb about you that is specific enough that tells your personal story. So saying something like, I'm a 3D character artist with 5 years of experience who utilizes Photoshop and 3D sculpting tools. Like, yeah, every 3D character artist does that. Like, we don't necessarily need that. What we need to know is, how do you work on a team? What makes you unique? Why do you derive pleasure from making like scars and pockmarks on creatures of the deep, right? Like, that is a much more compelling about me than, again, stating just the very bare bones facts, if that makes sense. So that should be pretty compelling. And then work your way down, right? So list your skills and the tools you use, the technology, and then your experience. Package that together with a beautiful cover letter that, again, tells your personal story. And that is what will get your recruiter's attention.
Thank you, Willem. So, networking is a word thrown around a lot for advice for job seekers in games. You've probably seen it all over LinkedIn, all over various Discords. But essentially, networking is conversations, it's relationships, and it's in some cases friendships. And you're kind of already taking your first steps towards networking now. You're all in the wonderful Work with Indies Discord server, a collective, a community of individuals, all motivated in some way, shape, or form to work in the games industry. One of the best places that you can find people to network with is in these kinds of communities. Off the top of my head, there's the Indie Game Academy, a Discord server I've heard is pretty cool, and got a nice bunch of people that you can get involved with game jams, classes, and that kind of thing. That's where you meet a lot of like-minded people. It's where you might find some of your first ever colleagues or team members when working on a game jam. And guess what? Those people have direct evidence as to how you work in a team and how you work on a project. So they could perhaps be some of your first referrals, or maybe some of your first references if you're applying for a job, or something like that. Of course, LinkedIn is the big one. It's where a lot of the decision makers for the jobs that you want hang out. That's recruiters, that's hiring managers, and other people in those kinds of positions to hire, I guess, within the industry. What you can do with your LinkedIn is, first of all, make sure you have a complete and filled out LinkedIn profile. It's essentially your billboard. It's how recruiters like Christina and I find you, because we'll use our various methods of magic to bring up candidates in our search fields. And that enables us to say, hey, is this person worth a potential conversation? Do they have the skills and experience, or translatable skills and experience, to maybe be viable for this role? So you want to make sure you've got all your points of discovery on there. So once you've got your LinkedIn profile fully filled out, that's when you can start looking for the types of people you want to connect with. And that might be people already doing the kinds of jobs you eventually want to get into. It might be the hiring manager for a job that you're applying for, or it could be a subject matter expert or a recruiter or someone that you'd like to seek some advice from. And what you need to do when connecting with these people is to be upfront about why you're connecting with them. Give them context. I get about 20 to 30 connect requests a day, which are literally just saying, hey, Tim, and that's it. And I'm sure, Christina, you've had quite a few as well. No context ads, and you're just kind of like, yeah, sure. If you're relevant to my industry and my trade, I'll connect and maybe explore a conversation when I have time. But when you're getting 20 to 30 messages daily, or sometimes even more, it rapidly snowballs. I kind of dread Monday mornings when I log in, because I'll come back to about 100 messages and I think, oh gosh, I need to start reading fast. So regardless of who you're connecting with, whether you see someone as an expert in something you want to master, or, that they're that expert that you want to seek help from, do your research. Make sure that they're the right person to be reaching out for. You might be a programmer, for example, so maybe connecting with an art recruiter isn't the best port of call. If you've got no other launch pads of information, you could maybe ask that recruiter, hey, who's your colleague that deals with programming? Because I'm interested in those kinds of jobs. But the key here is to be specific in your request, so you make it easy for someone like me to help you. If you're coming into an inbox saying, hi, what jobs have you got for me? That's a question as broad as anything. Whereas if you go, hey, Tim, I've got XYZ experience doing this in these game jams. I'm looking for this type of role in a small size studio that is remote. That enables me to instantly go, right, I have opportunities that can help, or actually, I'm sorry, I don't have anything right now. And you can tailor that to whatever you're connecting with people for. So if you're asking Willem for information on where to learn how to make games, you can say, hey, Willem, I'm really interested in learning Godot. Where's the best place for me to start researching that? And by being specific in those requests, you're helping the other person help you. And when you ask someone for a small favor to sort of help you, it's been proven in studies that actually ingratiates that person towards you. So by putting in a little bit of effort at the start, you can start that relationship off on a good point, and hopefully that will lead to some positive resolutions. Conversations are key. Don't just fire over kind of a ransom note of demands of stuff you need help with. We're human beings at the end of the day. So whether you're talking over instant messages, or if you're on like a video call, ask them about them. People love to talk about themselves for the most part. So even if it's just a, hey, how's your week going? How are you doing? A nice little neutral question like that can just help people get a bit more comfortable with each other. I'm from England. I will always ask you, how's the weather? It's a nice little topic that usually won't cause too much conflict, and you can kind of ease into the conversation that way. And certainly when I was a bit earlier on in my career, and I wasn't as extroverted as I am now, I would use that as a way to just kind of ease myself into that kind of interaction to get more comfortable. In regards to generally networking, if you're starting out in the industry, you're more often than not going to be reaching out to people that are a lot more senior to you. They might be seniors, leads, directors, whatever. Have context for the positions these people hold. Some people do not check their inbox every day. They might not even check it every week or every month. So if I know it's frustrating if you don't get a reply straight away, but say you message, I don't know, me on a Friday night in English time, and I don't get back to you till Wednesday, that's about 5 calendar days or so where you've not maybe got a reply. It doesn't mean you won't get one. You just need to have context for the fact that sometimes people are either so snowballed and overwhelmed they can't come back to you instantly. They might not reply at all, but the way you conduct yourself in these online communities is very important. You know, I once had a case where someone connected with me asking me a quite a specific question, actually. And I was in interviews all afternoon. So that person had maybe 4 or 5 hours where I didn't reply. I then came back to about 8 follow-up messages in that chat. They'd tagged me in one of my scheduled LinkedIn posts going, "Hi, Tim, check your inbox." They'd also messaged some colleagues of mine going, "Hi, I sent him a message at 10. He's not replied yet. What's going on?" That kind of thing can really put someone on the back foot. I did feel quite awkward. And while I did engage with that person, I really didn't want to, because I was just like, I'm going to get my head bitten off for the sheer fact that I was doing my day job and I've not checked my social media account. So just have the context of people's situations. It always pays to be polite, even if you do feel that maybe someone could have done things a little bit better, because we're all human. And right now, the industry is a colossal mess. And a lot of points, we've all seen the layoffs just this week. So you don't know what positions people are in. Many of my colleagues are recruiters in studios. Some have been quietly laid off in the past, and then they've had tons of messages after they've been laid off asking them for job help, but their priorities have shifted at that point in time. You know, they need to put food on their table. So always have the context for someone's situation and do that research. But primarily with networking, it's having those conversations. You know, it's being specific in those requests or those messages where you're first connecting, and really just getting to know the person, build an actual relationship that is authentic rather than transactional.
Willem, I can take this one because Alex and I collaborated on her guide if you want me to take this one. Okay. So ultimately, when you interview, my biggest pro tip that I don't think gets talked about enough in an interview is first thing, when a recruiter calls you or anyone calls you and they say, "Hey, Willem, hey, Tim, how are you?" You should never, ever, ever say, "I'm good, thanks, how are you?" You should always say, "I'm good," and create something. And I just had my first cup of coffee today. Oh, that's awesome. What are you drinking? Dark brew, cold brew? Like, what is it? Or, oh, great. I just had a wonderful weekend. I was able to run a half marathon. Oh, that's great. You're a runner. You're already setting a conversational tone. So pro tip number 1, never answer an interview with "I'm good, how are you?" It's a non-conversation starter. You want to open the door versus close it. That also sets the stage for the rest of the tone of your interview. And your interview should be effectively your best foot forward, utilizing 2 methods. One, depending on the situation or the question, they're going to ask you technical or behavioral questions. Any behavioral question should be answered with the Carl or the STAR method. So STAR is your situation, the task at hand, the actions you took, and the results. Or you could use Carl. Yes, I literally, for the person that I had a Baja Blast, I have 2 on my desk right now for this conversation. Or you can use Carl, which is the circumstance, the actions, the results, and what you learned. Those are the 2 best ways to answer any situational interview question. And then technical, obviously, just speak to your strengths and storytell as much as possible in an authentic way. That's like the quick and dirty 2-minute how to have a good interview. Tim, you want to take it? I'll tell you the answer.
I don't usually. I will look at them. It sounds awful, doesn't it? The context for my role, I'm often asked by studios to go and hunt for people specifically. So a lot of the people that I talk to are people that I have already reviewed and cherry picked, and then I basically send them a DM like, "Hi, I'm Tim. Want this job?" Obviously, a bit better than that. So I'll primarily be most interested in their CV, their portfolio, and how the initial chat between us goes. I will look at the cover letter, after that stage, if there's additional information in there that they uncover in the interview, or I think it's going to help make the case to my client stroke hiring manager that this person is a super good fit for the job. The reason I don't tend to look at them, a lot of cover letters are very generic, and it usually equates to, "Hello, my name is Tim. I do these things. I do them very well. I would like a job." So it doesn't give me much evidence to help make the decision on whether you're a great hire or not. If your cover letter's got stuff in that says why you're a great hire, but it's not in your CV, my first question is, why is that not in your CV? To me, that is the most important document for unlocking the door to that interview. So a lot of companies, they'll ask for a cover letter and it'll be mandatory, in which case, fine, go for it if that's the process you want to get through it. Otherwise, I would say focus your efforts on your CV and portfolio, and that's my opinion as an agency vendor recruiter. But I know, Christina, you may have a different take to me.
I do. So I am in a similar boat, kind of. So I'm more in-house, and I will say always submit a cover letter that is authentic and is an extension of your candidate summary. So like I said, on your resume, you have those 2 sentences about who you are that should tell your story. I say your cover letter should be an extension of that, and here's why. If I have one role available and I have 2 qualified candidates, I need something to break the tie, and that personal connection to your cover letter could be your tiebreaker. So do I read every single cover letter? No, not necessarily. But when I need to read a cover letter, that is what will tip the scale into your favor or not, which is, to Tim's point, make sure that it's not super generic. Make sure that it is an extension of who you are, your personal brand, your resume, right? And it tells me something that is unique enough that, again, kind of tips the scales in your favor. So maybe you're an environment artist and you put that you are an environment artist who really specializes in, deep space intergalactic combat scenes, right? Like, okay, cool, right? Then tell me, like, hey, I'm really inspired by this particular artist, and this is what got me started on this pathway, and this is the way that I've pursued that and the way I want this. Like, that tells me a lot more than just like I'm a environment artist who loves sci-fi and I have been doing it and I know how to use Substance Painter. Right? Like, make that cover letter the thing that tips the scales in my direction. As a recruiter, it's my job to happily match or play matchmaker. And I can't do that. Like, I can't help vouch for you if I don't have a reason to be your paladin and justify you as a hire to the hiring manager. So your cover letter is another tool that will allow me to better justify you to the team as to why I put you forward. So again, you could skip it, right? But I think the only person that gets hurt by you skipping it is you, if it's something that I need.
Yeah. I've got it watermarked on my CV.
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways you can do it. The first thing I would recommend is create tabs on your portfolio, right? Have a dedicated tab for whatever your smaller discipline is, and then keep the highest caliber of the thing you wanting to focus on. So sorry, well, did you say what was their goal? Environment artist? What was it? Okay, yeah. So if you're doing 3D art, I would probably pick, if you're going to be a character artist, a prop artist, environment artist, like what are you going to be? And then put those as the key features on your resume, because again, that's what that particular employer is going to be looking for first. Then have tabs for subspecializations that show your versatility as needed. But again, it's not going to be the first and first. Okay, so like level design, yeah. So like world building, right? So put those things first, put those level like snapshots and screenshots first, and then have subcategories for us to look at, again, if needed, right? But I would say it's better to have fewer pieces of higher caliber and quality than to have a myriad of mixed pieces just to show you're versatile. It will not come off as versatile. It'll come off as unfocused.
Yeah, so my favorite sort of game writing or narrative design portfolios are typically you've got different pieces grouped by tabs. So you might have a tab that is character bios, you might have a tab that is NPC barks, and maybe you've got an example of branching narrative or something like that. What I want to kind of see from these pieces is links to your actual work. So if you've got maybe 2 or 3 pages of extract from some dialogue that you've done, have that under your dialogue section, have it in an easily accessible place for me to read, either hosted on the website itself or at least like a hyperlink somewhere where I can download and view it. The key elements with writing portfolios is, of course, that your work can be read, that it's easy to understand and easy to find, because they can be massive portfolios because of the sheer volume of stuff you create. Don't fall into the trap where you just put up absolutely everything you've written ever. Like Christina said with art pieces, make sure they're your top 1 or 2 pieces for each specific category. If you have made your own kind of visual novel or something like that, consider doing a short video playthrough of, a key bit in the story that shows off quite a lot of your flair. For example, you can link people to your itch project or your Steam project for the whole thing if they want to go check it out. But because the time commitment to read through an entire piece is often quite large, if a hiring manager is going through, let's say, 30 writer applications, that's a heck of a lot of work on their end to read through every piece. So if you make sure that the one piece they probably look at properly versus the many pieces they might glance over, they'll get a better indication of the type of work you do. So cherry pick your best pieces, group it by tabs, and don't worry too much about making it an absolute visual masterpiece on the portfolio site. If the only thing that you can do right now is, say, have a Google Drive with different pieces in group by folders, do that, because all I personally will care about is reading your specific pieces. Mm.
Yeah, always fewer but stronger. One of the things that I advise my undergraduates, my collegiates, they literally are just, they're not doing anything, right? They're just doing their student work. They're not necessarily working full-time jobs. A lot of them are stereotypical students that they're not parents or anything like that. So I tell them that they should be working on one high quality portfolio piece a month for a total of 12. And then they should be every year going through and dropping their weakest piece. One of the exercises we do at Naughty Dog when we do screen people, or I did, is we would say to the candidate, we would say, which of these pieces are the weakest and why is it in your portfolio? And we would make them actually defend their weakest piece. So I would say like that is something that people can do pretty much on themselves, right? So look at your portfolio. If you've got 5, 6 pieces, great. If you've got 3, fine. But look at those 3 or 5 and see which one is the weakest and which one can be eliminated and replaced with something of higher quality.
Yeah. We lost your audio, William. Super cool, but he sadly got cut off.
That's exactly what he was saying.
Yeah.
He was like, they are the highest quality people I could have brought on. Quality over quantity. I say yes.
If you're applying directly, yes. If you're talking to an agency recruiter like me, what we tend to do is after our conversation with you, we will write our own kind of candidate pitch about you and send that to someone like Christina to read through. So I may well include your cover letter just because I like hiring managers to see absolutely everything that I've gathered on candidates that they have shared with me. But I'll also write something like, hey, Willem's a super cool everything who does this, this, and this. You should hire him.
Willem
So,
is everything, and you should hire him.
Willem is my
Willem,
everything.
I just referred you to someone literally yesterday, you know. Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually just answered this in my lecture yesterday. There's a couple of ways you can go about it. One, we know that you may have work under NDA. Just make either say it in your resume or say it on your portfolio. Additional assets available, or NDA assets available upon request. Frequently, there are some exceptions to be made. You could present that privately on a phone call or a recruiter screen, or you could discuss it and show it to us outside of posting it publicly. As long as we have some indicator that it exists. Now, that does not mean that if you have only work under NDA that we'll call you and say, show me your NDA work, right? Your portfolio outside your NDA work should be strong enough to speak for itself. That will then want us or inspire us to call you to talk about anything we could see under NDA.
Yeah.
And sometimes people will say, sometimes people will say like, oh, I worked on a project with a particular IP, like, oh, I worked on some Sonic IP, I have assets available under NDA, or I worked for a project with Gearbox, I have assets under NDA. That will help guide us on what to expect when we see your NDA work. But there should be some indicator either on your portfolio, it could be a line, it could be a header, or something on your portfolio itself or on your resume that allows us and tells us that that's available.
And like,
Correct. Yep. Yep, exactly.
It's also a good kind of reason why you should always, if you can, if circumstances allow, do game jams, work on your personal projects and stuff. If you're a vehicle artist, for example, like over the course of a few months or weeks, like make a vehicle that's just your own design, so people can at least have a barometer of where you're at now. I had a case recently for a writing role where this writer I was talking to could say what kinds of projects they'd worked on, but everything was under ironclad NDA. They volunteered and just said, Tim, if they want to give me just a test, I will write them a test. I'm happy to do that and just see where it's at. And the studio were then like, oh, let's make a writing test for this person. And we worked it out that way. I've had people share fan fiction that they've written, or any kinds of personal work can often be a way around it. And certainly, again, context is key. You know, if you're working on a AAA RPG and you can't share anything at all, just be like, hey, I'm working on something along the lines of these types of games in these kinds of styles, so at least we can get a bit of a gauge on, you know, where to fit you, so to speak.
Yeah, and I will say too, sorry, one last thing, like to Tim's point, there are ways to indicate what you're working on without violating your NDA. So definitely check with your HR team if it's something you can't show on a call, but you should still be able to speak to the work and then have the quality of your resume back up what you're saying, right? So you should be able to tell me about your NDA work, even if it's a little bit vague, and then have the quality of your portfolio show and display what you've communicated, if that makes sense. Okay, I love this. Baja Blast is tropical storm in a can. It is a product flavored by Mountain Dew that is a combination of Mountain Dew, coconut, and lime. It is also it's also my desired drink of choice. If I could have it just hooked up to an IV and just walk around with it, I would. For those of you that have never met me or talked to me before, I do not go a single talk without somehow Taco Bell entering the conversation. It is a core part of my personal brand. I'm obsessed, and yeah, I drink Baja Blast. I just got a Baja Blast purse, and I have Baja Blast merch, y'all. Like,
yeah,
I have convinced people, including Tim and Willem, both of them have had their first ever Baja Blasts, and I have their reaction on video.
yeah.
I keep it in my. It's the best. It is the best thing ever. End of story.
I called it Baja Blast for a long time before Christina corrected me.
I did. I was like, oh, honey. Oh, honey.
Oh, poor British boy.
Oh. Most people fall into recruiting, totally honest. Most people are not like, wait, I know one recruiter, Marie Ablaza from Netflix. She was like, I'm going to be a recruiter. And she was like, I'm going to get an HR certificate and go. Yeah, she was like, I'm going to go into recruiting. Most people, I think, fall into recruiting. They tend to be extroverted. They love to network. Some way, shape, or form, they fall into recruiting. I came from an HR background. And I have a sales background. And so for me, like, what is people plus sales equals recruiting? And so I actually started at the university level. So I was a university recruiter and then kind of moved into different industries. So music, fashion, and then into games. And I've told this story before, but I was terrified to get into games full time. I actually fought since 2013 to not work in the games industry. I would be involved in games and was games adjacent. I would take on very small games contracts. But I didn't want to go full time because it was so volatile. So I picked like more stable industries and then just did like small contracts on the side until I got sick of that. And I was like, all right, face the music, face your destiny. And then I got hired at Naughty Dog full time. Right. So that's kind of my pathway. And then as far as like career progression upwards, there's multiple avenues you can go. So you can go like the people manager route, you can go the individual contributor route. You can go what I do, like I'm in the strategy route. So right now I oversee North America. With the intent to move into more of a strategic direction on like what is the candidate pipeline, how is the candidate experience, how are we optimizing our process, and what is our talent brand, and how does all of that tie together to make our stakeholders happy?
Yeah.
Tim?
There's I had your very typical path into recruitment. I didn't know that it was a job you could do until I walked into a recruitment agency one day looking for temp work, and they said, "Hey, you should do this." 10 years later, next month, here I am. I'm very excited about my decade in recruitment. I had a pathway where I was almost done. I can hang up the Spurs. No, not for a very long time. I started off in internal recruitment. I worked in a variety of different roles, but I kind of ping-ponged between internal and agency because I did chase what opportunities were fun and interesting to me at the time. But I had a lovely period where I was essentially a interim or contract head of recruitment. So I would parachute into different companies, fix their broken processes, processes that gave no feedback to candidates, that took forever to fill jobs and wasted loads of money, and turned them around, made them more sustainable and more, I was going to say more ethical for candidates involved in the process. After a brief stint running a copywriting agency for recruitment agencies to have better adverts, I decided to start my own, which you can just do. I just literally paid 50 quid to Company's House, started Right Finder Headhunting Limited, and here I am 4 years later. There's lots of different pathways in recruitment. You can go down the internal route and stick to that. You can ping pong a bit and focus on agency like I did, or you can go purely into agency, which is a very sales business development type of environment. So the core of my day, I spend delivering on the jobs that I have from my client studios. That's talking to people like yourself and seeing if you're interested in the roles. But it's also going to people like Christina and going, "Hi, I'm Tim. Do you want any help?" Basically, but a lot better than that, I can attest to. And doing it that way. So it kind of depends what sort of person you are and what you'd find fun. I'm a weaponized extrovert. I love the thrill of the chase, so to speak. And I'm very kind of target driven. So agency works well for me and the staff that I employ, and we have a great time doing it.
I will say too, there's a bunch of facets to recruiting too. So you could go like the university route and be a university recruiter and focus on, specializing in undergraduates. You could be, or internships, right? You could do that. You could, there's like so many different ways. You could be a corporate recruiter and only focus on executive roles. You can go the agency route. You can go, there's so many different ways in recruiting. Like we could do a whole session on if you want to be like how to be a recruiter. But there's like a million different avenues. Oh, the reveal. The reveal.
Hi, I'm doing well. Sorry, had to work a little bit later. Yeah,
Hello.
problem. Hi. Sure. So my name is Deidre Christopher. I started out in games. I was a professor at the University of Texas at Dallas. And then I got picked up by 343 when it was 343 and not Halo Studios. And I was one of the designers on Halo Infinite. So I worked on most of the open world, me and another designer. So if you played Halo Infinite, you've played my stuff. I've worked on
Thank
Call
you.
of Duty since. I worked on Immortals of Avium with Ascendant Studios, and I'm currently at ZeniMax. And I can't talk about what I'm doing there, but yeah. And I've also I'm having a book that's going to be published later this year on on breaking into the industry, actually. So I've gone around to a lot of developers. I've gotten their stories, talking about how they got into industry, their favorite tips and tricks based on like their disciplines. So yeah, it's a guide I've been working on for a while, and I hope that it's really helpful for people. So that's me. Of course. Sure. Okay. It can. This is one of those bigger questions. So, depending on the studio, is what I usually tell people. If you're going the indie route, you're usually going to wear a lot of hats. So, they will ask for a lot more, like for you to have a lot more skills, whether like it may be a little bit of modeling, it may be, obviously they're going to want you to be comfortable with an engine, whether that's Unity or Unreal or a proprietary engine, depends on the studio. But yes, world building does qualify as level design. It can also, though, in some sectors, it can be level art. Sometimes level art and environment art, there's not a lot of difference. I actually talk about that in my book. Again, that depends on the studio. You will find, as a general rule, though, AAA is very specialized, whereas indie is, they want more generalists. They want people who can do a lot of things because they may have a budget, for only like 50 devs, right? So they need somebody who has Maya experience as well as Unreal or Unity experience. Whereas you get into AAA, they're really going to want you to specialize as a designer. You may have a level design background, but you might focus on combat. You might focus on encounter work. You might focus on, world building or scripting specifically. So I'm kind of a generalist. I do a little bit of scripting, but I'm more world building. So I'm like placing assets, doing block out, doing creating spaces for game encounters, for combat, things like that. So yeah, it depends, but that's about as specific as I can get.
I can start with this one. The answer is technically no. So my studio is actually, so I work in co-development now, right? So similar to Tim, I have multiple AAA studios that need some additional help getting their product across the finish line. And so they actually hire us to help do that. And so I'm hiring a ton of people all the time, and ours is fully remote. So the answer is no. We have seen a lot of groups coming up, like we have the Midwest game devs coming up, right? The work that Ben Cavallo is doing. You're seeing some of those types of things popping up in Charleston. You're seeing new studios kind of cropping up all over. The idea that you only have to be in one of the central hubs, Austin, LA, New York, like Montreal, that's actually coming away a little bit, especially as we're looking at the layoffs and the impacts that that's having in our industry in totality. We're doing away with some of that. So I would say the answer is no. It is still harder to work in a fully remote studio. That is accurate, but it is not by any way like a requirement. It's not like movies, where like you have to be on a set in Hollywood. It's nothing like that. We're seeing a move away from that, actually.
Yeah.
Can totally agree with that. I've been remote for a while, well, since 2020. And even though I'm in a hub in Madison, and I did relocate to Seattle when I worked at when I was at 343, I find there's a lot of remote positions. And even as like a lot of studios will have the hybrid option. So,
Yeah.
you definitely I feel like you get more opportunities if you are in a big hub, but I don't really think it's necessary anymore.
Yeah, it depends on those specific opportunities. If you want to work at a specific studio that has a in-office policy, yeah, you will have to go there. Otherwise, there are tons of places. So don't let it put you off. Mm. Mm.
People will be really surprised too how many hubs there actually are. There's a
Mhm.
lot of places that develop games now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Portland.
Yeah, I will. So I think a demo is fine. I don't have any problem when I see tech demos. The thing that I do want to see is that the work itself is completed. I don't want like a work in progress. So if you have like, like an end-to-end experience, even if it's a short one, I think that's great. I don't think you need to make an entire game to prove out your skills. But that is definitely my opinion, and what I've kind of seen over the years.
Yeah, I mean, especially for engineering, like I want to make sure your GitHub is up to date, and I want to make sure that your code is clean. If you're an engineer, like that's the things I'm going to care about. You know what I mean? That's what I care about. So whether that's just a demo or that's like something fully completed and executable is negligible, because if you have a fully executed product that's playable but the code sucks, my team doesn't want that, right? So it goes back to like put your best foot forward. And if that best foot is, hey, here are some tools and scripts and plugins that I've done, great. Speak to that. If it's, hey, here's a fully executed, very clean, polished, like great clear code that I've written to execute this feature through a game jam, cool, we'll take that too.
Yeah. First of all, congratulations on having a book coming out soon. That is awesome. And I'll preface this with, I am a writer. I'm probably not the best or a very good one, but I understand it enough to recruit for it. The first answer to this question is it will depend on the recruiter. Speaking for myself personally, as someone who reads a lot of pieces and likes looking at writing, I absolutely have taken other writing into account that's not game specific. There was an individual that I have been working with to get a role in a game studio, and they were showing me kind of different screenwriting that they've done, kind of some fan fiction and other bits and bobs. Writing is writing at the end of the day. What I'm looking for are the specific elements that can be applied to games. So things like dialogue, stage directions and stuff like that can be applied to things like cinematics, but also looking at kind of how you can approach and read a brief. One of the most important parts of a writer being hired is, can you execute a creative brief accurately to the vision of the person setting you that brief? All too often, I've seen incredibly talented writers fail writing tests because they've taken an idea, run with it, and made it their own. And they've come out with something that's a lovely piece of work, but it's not delivered the objective for the studio. So when you're kind of breaking into the industry, think about your portfolio from that piece. Maybe some excerpts from your book. Have some cool descriptions that you've written as an example of scene setting. If you've got any dialogue excerpts between characters of different types of relationships, have that as your dialogue examples. If you've got any snippets of dialogue, maybe that could be applied to barks. There's another example you can use. But certainly if you're I don't know if you're working with a literary agent or a publisher, but if they've given you any notes or revisions to align a piece better, maybe you could talk about that process. You know, here's the piece as it was. I received this feedback from the publisher for this to become a commercial product, and here is the piece that's made it into the final product, because then I can see your evolution from, you know, draft one to finished product. That will probably be the most useful. A lot of getting your first role writing in games is luck. These roles tend to be a bit more temporary or transient in nature. They're often brought in for specific missions over a 12 to 24 month period, and then once all the plot's done, you know, they move on to the next one, which is why you see a lot of self-employed writers. So I would say focus on your networking, embed in the communities where writers hang out, share those opportunities, and where people go to hire writers. And keep practicing your craft as well. Like Christina said, like I've been saying, you know, work on a portfolio piece, you know, one per month if you can, and drop those weaker pieces and gradually build it up. Take part in game jams and just keep pushing at it. You know, I've got a game writing credit for a VR action game. The reason I got that was because I had a previous existing relationship with the person who made the game, and they knew that I understood the setting of the game incredibly well. It's a martial arts game and I'm a martial artist, but they also knew that I could write generally from my copywriting background. That's an example of networking working, for want of a better word, you know. So, you know, it can't be overstated how important that networking piece is, but, you know, anything that you write could be a piece of evidence. Just think about how it'll fit into games. Sorry, I went on for ages then. I can't see your screen, but if you let me know which person it is, I will open it on mine.
Yeah.
Oh, we've lost your sound as well, Willem. Let's put words into Willem's mouth. I love
This has
doing
been
these events.
puppetry. This has been recruiter.
Excellent.
Okay, here we go.
Yes,
Oh, an
yes.
ArtStation portfolio.
Ooh.
Mhm, mhm. First, I would change your title from 3D artist to probably concept artist.
Yeah, agreed.
Because I don't really see a lot of like 3D modeling in your portfolio. Like at first glance, I'm like, oh, you're a concept artist, right? You're a character concept artist. That's my first impression. But then when I go to your resume tab, you have all these other things tagged that I'm not seeing. So I'm kind of curious why they're there. That's like first impression. I do appreciate that like you are a stylized artist and therefore you have a stylized brand, right? Your title, your name title is stylized. It's clickable. I would love if I clicked it if it took me to your LinkedIn page though. What?
Yeah.
Because if I click it, it just takes me back to your ArtStation, right? So what's the point of having it hyperlinked to the page I'm already on? But ultimately, I do appreciate that you have a couple of like your key pieces. I would ask you to ask yourself, like, what is your weakest piece and why is it in here? Can we put them on stage? Can they talk to us?
These pieces are 3D, by the way. If you click into them, you've got the workflows and
Oh,
stuff.
gotcha. Okay, perfect. Thank you. I just clicked on one, so. Yeah. Okay. I'm looking at
If
the
you're happy to be
skeleton
on
guy
stage.
right now, and I do see the.
One thing I recommend, and I say this to the students that I mentor often, is I like to see black or white backgrounds against your art. I think it stands out better. I think the green, blue, and purple just me personally puts me off. I like to see like a very neutral color because I think it helps your art stand out more.
Hello.
Hi, David.
Hey, David.
Hi.
So, David, I would like to. Yeah, absolutely. It is pretty strong. I would ask you, what is what would you say is your strongest piece in your portfolio?
My strongest piece right now is definitely the most recent one, Echo from Arcane.
Solid.
Um,
Solid. I would agree with that. And what would you say is your weakest piece?
That's gonna be a little tough, actually. Maybe TOB, maybe TOB1, the first one.
Okay.
Mainly because that was a first for a lot of things for me. That was my first 3D project where I really dabbled into NPR rendering in games.
Sure.
Or at least in the game engine. And there's a lot I've learned since then over the past like year and a half. Um, I think, yeah, I think I would say it's that one.
Okay.
Maybe the
One
second.
thing-
I'm
I was
sorry.
gonna say that's okay. One thing that I'm looking at, so I've gone ahead and I've clicked into your Hogarth mostly because I love Iron Giant. So I've clicked there. Something that I love that I know my high would appreciate is you have a lot of depth in in the details. So you show me like your reference images and those collections, and you've grouped them very clearly. You've shown me like what your poses were, what your iterations were, what your profiles were, and then at the end of that, you've given me a summary of your steps. And I think that, again, is all about the story, right? That tells my team like what your process is and what you've learned or what you've worked. So I think you say, this is a really fun project. I'm glad I got to work on it, right? So you kind of iterate that, and that will help my hiring team legitimately look at like the culture fit piece, right? Outside of just your technical work. So I would say that's really, really great. Anyways, I'll stop talking and let someone else
I was going to
touch
say
on this, but
oh, sorry. Sure.
Mhm.
One of the things that I really liked as well in diving into some of the portfolio pieces, again, kind of piggybacking on what Christina said, was I like that you show some of your Unreal shaders, you show your pure ref. So that tells me that you are using a lot of industry standard tools or tools that people in the industry are already using. And I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then I would say just one thing too, as a feedback, like, and this could just be me personally, right? Like recruiters, we're not artists, right? We do like the highest level of like analysis, right, on behalf of our hiring managers. But I would say like my first impression when I first pulled this up was like, oh, are you just a character concept artist? Like that was my first impression. So I would probably see some of those more 3D models in your little thumbnails at the beginning, right? Just to show some of that depth variety that you do iterate on the resume tab. So that first impression is already dispelled at the beginning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
One point as well. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I've, looking at this portfolio, I think you've laid it out really wonderfully, and I love the breakdown. So I've just done a quick, how would I normally try and get in contact with you? scan. First thing I did, I highlight your name, searched in Google to see if that would pull up your LinkedIn profile. I can't see a LinkedIn profile anywhere, and it's not linked on your ArtStation. I have found the initial ArtStation link that's not in the portfolio mode, so there is a direct message function there. But when I last checked, ArtStation lets you send 25 messages per day. So if I'm going through a big list of artists and trying to get in contact with them, I might not have enough credits left to send you a pitch. So have an email address on there if you don't want to have a LinkedIn. I would strongly encourage you to have a LinkedIn, because then I can be like, hey, I have this job. Let's talk, you know?
And make sure your resume is downloadable for the same reason.
That makes sense. Yeah, I used to have an option on ArtStation on the ArtStation page to be contacted either for email or for like a personal, like a DM. I took it down because I got so many scam messages.
Oh yeah, those ArtStation. I've seen your piece things. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I should put in my LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn's a good way of filtering out those scam things, because at least you can see who's viewing your profile. When they send you a connect request, you can jump on their profile and go, is this a legitimate recruiter, and stuff like that. But no, otherwise, very nice portfolio. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Can we not use that phrase? That's so sad. Oh my gosh. I don't, just my soul. Okay, wait, let me see. Oh, it's on Notion. Ooh, how cutting edge.
Nice.
It's very cutting edge. Sam, my first impression, is Sam up here on the stage? Okay, that's okay. Sam, this is great. My first impression though is it looks a little bit like a 90s website, which is interesting because you're using a cutting edge tool, right? So anyways, first impression, I'm like, ooh, there's a little bit of like a disconnect there. Like you're using Notion sites, and that's like super new, cutting edge, the new hotness. But then it's set up to look like kind of like a 90s webpage. So first impressions. Okay, let me go through here right now.
I have a little bit of feedback. So you have game designer here, but I do see a lot of things for UX. So again, I think I see this a lot. Maybe think in terms of like, are you a UX designer, right? Is that really your focus rather than game design? Because when I think game designer, I think programmer. I think, you're designing combat, you're designing encounters, maybe you're scripting, coding, and I see a lot of UX stuff. And I know that there's a lot that goes into game design as well, like mechanics, et cetera. And of course, user experience is really important in game design. But I'm seeing a lot of UX. I almost wonder if you might even want to pivot to UX over game design.
Same.
Yeah.
I will say I think the layout's great. I think that the selfishly, as like someone, fun fact, I have really bad OCD, and for me, I love that you have consistently color coded the various platforms. I think it makes it very easy, right? Like you're like, cool, your Xbox is green. Of course it is. Like to me, that makes perfect sense, right? Your Nintendo is red. Like it's very subtle, but again, it goes back to that UI UX. Like of course you did that. You know what I mean? But it does make it very easy for me to see what you have worked on. I don't know that your reading list is adding any value. Like, I checked it out. It's cool that you link these things, but I don't know if it's adding any value. Like, that space could be better designed or utilized in maybe a different way. And your about me is not an about me. It's just your resume. So I would relabel that. I thought it was gonna be like a paragraph or like a summary or something more about you. And it's just your resume. So I would literally just relabel that, like, or rework that page to be more indicative of an about me, which is a resume plus things you're interested in. Maybe the current book you're reading, right? A little bit more of that storytelling element. Yeah. The layout's great though.
Yeah, I was going to say, first of all, hey, Sam, I know it's late for you as well because we're both in Britain.
Hello. Yeah, nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, good to see you. So one of the pieces I really like in your portfolio is actually hidden right at the bottom, and it's a design test that you did for Ubisoft. Because we've got a wonderful design document here where you've looked at what looks like a kukri, some kunai, and some other wonderful bladed melee weapons, and you've come up with some designs around that. That says to me that you are someone that can easily look at, general gameplay design, systems design in terms of those statistics for weapons and, combat. That's something you could maybe talk about in your summary, like we said earlier, the specific kinds of design that you can do. Because clearly you're very au fait with UX design, but, it could be something like, hey, I'm Sam. I'm a designer who has experience and is interested in UX, gameplay, level design, XYZ, just to give us that context, because I found that right at the bottom because I'm curious and we'll read it through. Some hiring managers, not all, they might just look at the initial start and they'll see designer, UX, a couple of YouTube clips, and then they might just skip to the next one in the pile. They might not have taken the time to go through it all. If you imagine someone's looking at CVs and portfolios at this time of night locally for them, it's the end of their day and they're very tired. They might not read through it with a fine tooth comb. So you just want to make sure, like Christina said, best foot forward at all times, have the best and most relevant things near the top.
And my first question with that test too is, are you allowed to share it?
Yeah.
I think
like the
so.
first thing
it was for an interview a couple of years ago, so I'm not quite sure.
Right. But like, did they have you sign an NDA or did they tell you that you could share that test? Because a lot of times, and again, I don't know, I've never been through the Ubisoft process, but at major studios that I've worked at, a lot of times their test work is under NDA and you can't share it or reproduce it or publicize it. So I would be cautious and just make sure that you're clear to share it. Yeah. Just make sure you're good to share it.
I actually had a friend get fired for that. They put their design test on their website and they were fired because that's usually a big violation of NDA. So yeah, what I've always been told is you can put it on your portfolio. You don't say what it is and you password protect it so that only recruiters specifically can see it. I have been told that's a workaround, but again, it depends on the studio. So yeah, I would.
And I will tell you, most times when you use a password protected item, recruiters don't love it and my hiring managers don't love it. So
I know.
Catch 22.
Definitely. I have. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, I was going to change the subject. So please go ahead.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, awesome. That kind of links in with the question I put in the chat as well, just how much information you need to put on projects, because you don't want to put paragraphs really to swamp recruiters.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, I think it's great. Again, layout's great.
I do think the layout's great. I like it. I think from a design, having interviewed quite a few people, I would like to know a little bit more. Like, I don't need like paragraph upon paragraph of what you did as a designer. But I think I would like a little more context, maybe some in progress shots, like if you did anything in Unreal, if you have like examples of your visual scripting or text scripting, even if it's just like a little snippet, a couple lines underneath it. I think that would really appeal to me as well. And I know it has for a lot of our teams when we're hiring. So yeah, just, a little more information about what you did on the project. I think that'd be great. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
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 Yes.
No, thank you for the feedback.
Is this Andre Castro? Oh, I love Andre. I love Andre. I don't know if I'm allowed to. I'll contribute last because I know Andre, so I'll contribute last.
That's what Andre's got their own branding. I love it. Just that title. That's dope. Sorry, I'll read the rest, but that was just like nice. Hello, Andre.
Hello.
Same. I like to see the projects first, honestly. Because yeah, because I love these little thumbnails where I can just go and click. I can play it in the browser. It shows me exactly what type of game it is. The
The Wick
platform,
Trick
I
is a
love
very
that.
good game to try. Most of the games that I've been doing recently, they are in multiplayer, so
Nice.
they don't allow single player games. So that's something I need to fix. So
To be
And
honest,
Andre, for me, I was gonna say the one thing I would like too is I would like your LinkedIn link to go up next to your like I would like to be able to link because it's kind of buried at the bottom.
Yeah.
And I would like to be able to find that as a recruiter. I'd like to be able to find it sooner. And I do love that you kept consistent branding between your itch page and your LinkedIn page. I don't know if that was a Christina tip that you got from me, but like I love the brand.
Probably, yeah. Probably.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I'm here for it. 2 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to be a slight troublemaker. Bearing in mind, I'm a vendor agent, so I'm literally a seek and hire type person. But I quite like having the engines and the programming languages near the top because I can immediately qualify if you have the must-haves and non-negotiables that my client is looking for. However, a compromise suggestion under each project you've worked on, perhaps we could have a little bit more detail, either in a read more underneath, being like, this project was made in C# for Android using these scripting languages or something like that. I think that would be the most effective way to appeal to a wider target audience. What I like specifically as Tim might not be the best thing for everyone else. So I think if you could delineate each project by what you specifically use to make them, and maybe a bit of step-by-step guide and stuff like that that William suggested, that will really help elevate this already, very nice looking portfolio.
Thing I was gonna say, and again, I might be like, this may just be my opinion personally, but I actually wish everything from welcome to my portfolio to link to just before LinkedIn was on an about page. I would rather just see the work first and everything else like on a separate page. I don't know if that's how itch works. Haven't seen a lot of itch portfolios, but that's just my take. I know in design we kind of like to get to the games and and the projects first. But that's what's mm. I'm going to be controversial. Now, again, I'm a designer, and when we look at designers, we want people who kind of like look at things the way we do. I've never heard a design hiring manager wanting that. They always want just right into the portfolio. They don't want to see anything else. But that is not from a recruitment standpoint. Obviously, Christina and Tim may have vastly different opinions, but when we get into we want to see the meat of the portfolio so that we kind of know where this person's skills are.
Yeah. But I think that perspective's so helpful, Deidre, because in some timelines you could very well be the hiring manager that Christina and I are advocating candidates to.
Yep.
That kind of stuff initially, I like flowers, this, that, and the other would get through the door to us. But then when we're submitting the candidate to yourself, we would focus on more what you're looking for. So
well, I think that goes to Deidre's point about like having an about page, or we talked about it in the portfolio before too, right? Like rather than just the about me being the resume, having that actually, because that was the first place I clicked, was like about me, cool. Let me learn about you and then evaluate like how I would justify your work to the team. So yeah, Andre, I would definitely have a little about me page that people like me who aren't me can reach out and get to know you a little bit more.
All right. Thank you. Just one question related to that. Do you think that I should be formal or informal when I'm doing my portfolio for other people to know more about me?
Can I take this one if that's okay? Andre, I know you, right? You are one of the most humble and kindest people that I know. So I think that even your informality will come off as humble and formal.
Right.
So the answer is be as you as possible while still being professional. That's what I would say.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't kick people out. Gosh. Yeah, I have to go get my babies from daycare soon. In like 10 minutes. Words of wisdom. I think number one, authenticity is key. Like, again, I think I kind of hit this on the head quite a few times. Like, be the best professional version of yourself. I joked a little bit earlier about Baja Blast, and that's like my fun fact category. Like, everyone who knows me knows I wear a lot of blue and black. It's my whole vibe, and I drink a lot of Mountain Dew. But I'm also a mom recruiter who works with moms. So, like, that's kind of Christina in a nutshell. So find out what your nutshell is and put that forward, kind of in the best way possible. One thing I didn't really touch on, we kind of did a little bit. There was some talks about how I know Andre. That's the power of networking. Andre actually reached out to me a little over a year ago when his wife, I think, was just about to have their baby, and was like, hey, can we do an introduction call? He said, I see you're working with moms in gaming. I'm about to be a dad. So that personal connection, can we talk? And I was like, absolutely. Yes. I love that you're a dad who wants to be an involved parent. Please, let's talk. So that's how Andre and I actually got to know each other. Right. And so now I recognize Andre, I know his work, and that's how we work together. So like, networking doesn't start off with, hi, I'm a person, I need a favor. It starts off with, hi, here's a personal connection. Let's build a relationship. And then you can tend to that garden of relationship as you go. I think Deidre, you're new to the party. Sorry, we haven't met before. But that's how Willem and Tim and I have become friends too, right? Like, it starts with something very, very small, and then you just tend that relationship. So tend your relationships, put your best foot forward, and be authentic. If you're not authentic, you're going to make really flimsy relationships, and they won't be beneficial long term. If I can direct you anywhere, probably my LinkedIn profile. I am LinkedIn-in whatever, at Christina Said So on all the things. It's pretty easy to find. And then if you are a working mom specifically, we have a Moms in Gaming Discord server that you can join, and you can hang out there. And then selfish little plug, you will probably see it on my LinkedIn. I was nominated recently for the game Hers. So if you're so inclined, there's a little link there, and you can go vote for me to be a community leader.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I will. Yes.
Yeah, I think my closing thoughts are the industry's rough right now, and do everything you can to not only look after yourself, but, nurture that little flame of hope. There are going to be days where you're absolutely knackered and you don't want to do anything towards, a job search, this, that, or the other. So I'd say if you're focusing on something that will help you in your job search or help you get to a place where you can then go forward with that job search, that's time well spent, and it's something that you can galvanize yourself with daily and build up that kind of that momentum to keep pushing forward. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us all this evening. I think it's evening where everyone is. If you want to see more of what I say about recruitment or just get up to generally, Willem shared my LinkedIn link already. I've also created a Twine project, which is nonfiction based around helping job seekers with resumes, portfolios, socials, and also managing things like job search stress and motivation. So I'll share a link to that itch bio here. You can have a look at it, and if it helps you, you're welcome. If it doesn't, I'm sorry, I'll try and do better. But no, that's me. Oh, Willem,
We lost you, Willem. We lost you, Willem.
I am Willem, and
Tim, you're amazing, show-stopping, spectacular. Thank you for being here. Deidre, you have the stage.
Thank you.
Willem, is that you?
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, also give some business.
Well, thank you for having me, of course. One of the things that I see quite frequently, and I want to encourage people to do, is research. Research the position you're interested in and make sure that you're focusing on the right place. That is the most common advice I give to folks, because you may be really into design, but your portfolio looks like an artist's portfolio. So I think one of the things is, like, start adding people, on LinkedIn. And like Christina was saying, make those relationships one of reciprocity. Not just like, hey, can you look at my portfolio, but just like, oh, I see that you worked on a game that I love. I mean, we'd love to talk about the games we worked on. We can only talk so much about what we did, but we definitely love to talk about it. And just having some common ground, asking for feedback from the community, whether that's LinkedIn, Discord, whatever, and just be really open to that feedback. I know things are tough right now. It's insane how many people are going up against like, the few jobs that are currently out there. But I definitely agree with Tim. Don't give up. Just, keep working at it. You can definitely connect with me on Discord, on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to do design portfolio reviews. I can give, whatever advice that you need. I'm happy to do that. Just bear with me because I do have a 9 to 5, and I also do a lot of projects like this on the side as well. But something else, shameless plug, when you get a chance, pick up my book, because I do go through a lot of this, like on how to research job listings, how to find something that you're really interested in. I even have like a quiz for you to say like, am I a designer? Am I an artist? Am I a programmer? Which things am I really interested in? Because I did not start off as a designer. I started off as a modeler and an artist. And then quickly pivoted to design because I was more passionate about that than I was about character art. So there's no shame in pivoting and focusing on something that you're really passionate about. And yeah, just reach out. No, not yet. It'll be out like the end of this year. Yeah, yeah. But I'll definitely post.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hang out and come to level 3 and hang out with me. I'll be at level 3 too. I love it. I will be there. More Christina time. I love it.
Yeah.
So fun. Thanks for having us, Willem. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you, Willem, and thank you, Christina and Deidre, and see you all very soon.
Bye.
Bye. I do. Good night, everyone.